Today is November 11th, and that means the Goodreads Choice Award nominations have just been revealed on their site. So I'm going to go over to the horror category specifically and see what has been nominated. And then what I'm going to do is pick 3 to 4 books to read from their nomination list. I want to pick books that I am interested in right off the bat. I want to pick books that maybe I've never heard of. And of course, I read other genres, but the horror category is honestly the only one I'm really particularly interested to make content on at the moment. Now, I have looked at all the other categories to see what else has been nominated, but I haven't looked at the horror category yet, so I'm going to be taking my first look right here on camera with you. So let's jump into it and see what's on the nomination ballot. Okay, here we are on the main page. Readers' favorite books of 2025. Now, I don't know how much faith I have in this book award competition because really it just feels like who's voting, and I guess it's just whoever uses Goodreads, and I'm already a little bit hesitant to trust the outcome of this competition because I read Goodreads fan favorite fiction of 2024 and I did not like it at all. I think I gave it 2 stars, so I'm gonna go into the horror category this time and hopefully that has a better result for me. So if you scroll down and look right here, there is a voting schedule and it says the opening round takes place from November 11th to the 23rd, then they have the final round which is November 25th to the 30th, and then the winners are announced on December 3rd. So this is kind of fun. So what I'm gonna do is read 3 to 4 books. There's no way I'm going to read all of them that are on the ballot. But like I said, I'll read maybe 3 to 4 that I'm most interested in, and then I'll take my vote from there. Then I can come back on December 4th and see if the book that I like the best made it to the final round or possibly the winner's spot. Okay, like I said, I have not looked at the horror section yet, so I'm nervous and excited. Okay, right off the bat, I feel like I recognize so many of these books, and I'm not surprised that a lot of them have made it onto this nominations list because they are all very popular. Of course, we have When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy. That I've seen everywhere all over social media. I feel like everybody and their mother has read this book except for me. I have actually not yet read a Nat Cassidy book. That is something that I have been meaning to do. So this might be a strong contender for which ones I might read in this vlog. Another author that I have been meaning to get to is Grady Hendrix. I actually was in a book club, a virtual book club meetup where Grady Hendrix came in and he was talking about his writing process, his research that went into writing this specific book. He was talking about, how he put a lot of care and concern into writing these female characters because it was a little bit weird to me at first that he was taking on the task of writing about women in childbirth and what they were feeling in this process. Now, obviously, as a man, he's never going to be able to give his firsthand account, but the way that he talked about his process in writing these female characters put my mind at ease and made me feel that he was coming from a place of a lot of respect and concern and care. And I feel like I've heard from a lot of people that he did a really good job in writing these women. So I have high hopes about this book. I think the subject matter of this book in particular is going to be something that I actually really love, so this also might be one that I'm going to choose. Coffin Moon by Keith Rawson. Now, this is one that I don't know much about, but I do recognize the cover, and I do think the cover is really cool. I have read in the synopsis that it is about a vampire, so I don't think I'm going to choose this one only because vampire stories just aren't my favorite. I'm just haven't been in the mood for them lately. Then we have The Haunting of Paynes Hollow by Kelley Armstrong. Now, I have no idea what this is about, so I'm going to go ahead and read a little bit of this synopsis. This synopsis sounds wild. If I choose this one, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what this is about, of course, but right off the bat, just for me kind of skimming through it and seeing, this one's already bumping up to like number 1 on my interested to read this list. I don't know why I haven't heard anything about this. Have you guys heard anybody talking about this book? I haven't seen this one at all. I've seen like the Nat Cassidy and the Grady Hendrix one like everywhere, and this one not so much. So I really don't know anything about it, but I'm already super intrigued. Okay, the next one is Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zhang. What I know about this one is this is a book written about quarantine. So this is about a Chinese American woman, I believe, and how she gets treated during the pandemic. I'm just personally not in the mood to be reading about the pandemic right now, even though I feel like this book is probably really, really good, and I probably will want to read it at some point. I just don't think I want to read it right now. The next one is The Lamb by Lucy Rose. I've seen this cover everywhere. I don't know exactly what it's about though. I feel like I've heard people talking about it and then I just didn't really have an interest in it. So I'll probably just skip over this one for now. The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. I literally just finished this book a few days ago. This is a great book. So look at that. I've already read one of the books on this list. Perfect. The next one is Never Flinch by Stephen King. Nobody is surprised to see Stephen King on this list. I like Stephen King. I've read a few of his novels. I have not read all of his novels by any means, and I actually don't even know what this is about. So it looks like this is number 4 in a series, so I'm just gonna steer clear of this because I don't know what the series is, and we'll just leave it at that. Next on the list, we have Breathe In, Bleed Out by Brian McAuley. Now, I just also finished reading this book recently, and if you've seen my past videos, you already know that I didn't like it, so I will not be voting for this book. Ooh, the next one is The Possession of Alba Diaz by Isabel Canas, and I really want to read this one as well. Oh, The Bewitching by Silvia Moreno Garcia. So my current read right now is actually Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia, and I love this book so far. I am savoring it because I love her writing. I'm obsessed already. So The Bewitching might really make it up there. Oh my god, I want to read so many books. I feel like I'm saying that about every single book. I'm gonna have to narrow it down. But already being obsessed with Sylvia's writing, I can't like show it in this like tiny little square, this tiny little box that I'm in. This might be one that I need to pick up just because I'm loving this one so much. So I don't know. We'll see. But I think this one's about witches, right? I don't know. Then we have We Love You, Bunny by Mona Award, and I have not read Bunny yet. So I really feel like I cannot read part 2, even though I feel like Bunny is going to be a book that I love. Everybody says it's so weird and it's really hit or miss for some people, and I feel like I'm going to like it because a lot of people compare it to Heathers, and I love Heathers. So I don't know. I think I'm going to really like it, but again, I'm not going to pick any sequels if I haven't already read the first book, so moving on. Okay, we have Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. I have not read anything by Rachel Harrison, and this is no shade or anything to the author. I am just so sick of seeing this book everywhere. I feel like this is another book that everybody and their mom is picking up right now, and something about it is just irking me. Like I'm just tired of seeing it. It's just not calling to me the way that everybody else is wanting to pick this up. I don't know what it is. I think it's the hype that's really driving me nuts. I just have no interest in this right now. Then we have Lucky Day by Chuck Tingle. This one is actually another one that's been bothering me because I've been seeing it everywhere, and I get it. These are popular books. These are going to be hyped. These are going to be all over everybody's social media. I don't think I'm gonna like this one. Just by hearing a lot of people's reviews of it, it sounds weird, and I do like weird sometimes, but sometimes weird is too weird for me, so I don't know. This one just sounds like something I'm not going to be interested in. Just from hearing how people have described this, it sounds very comedic, and I don't think that's going to be up my alley, to be honest. Blood on Her Tongue by Johanna Van Veen. Now, I own this book, so this might be a good one for me to choose. However, it's not one of the books that I want to read as much as some of these other books on the list. I think I'm also going to steer clear of this one at the moment, and I will revisit it when I am more in the mood for vampires. Hungerstone by Kat Dunn. This is a book that I feel like people love, but I actually can't remember a thing about it. Is this about cannibalism? It says it's a seductive sapphic romance. Is this another vampire book? I don't really know. I feel like it's not calling to me like something I would want to vote on as my favorite. So let's just keep going. Okay, next we have How Bad Things Can Get by Darcy Coates. And Darcy Coates is another one of those authors that I have been dying to read something from eventually, but I don't know if How Bad Things Can Get is the one that I want to read from her first. I think I've heard that this book is a little bit different than her usual writing style. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I could be totally wrong because, again, I haven't read anything from her, but I thought I remember somebody saying that. I don't know. But the premise alone is about people going to an island, like a paradise, and I think people start getting killed off. But, I don't know if I'm so much in the mood for that. I feel like that is a similar premise to Breathe In, Bleed Out, and that one didn't work for me. This one might work because maybe the writing's just different and I might like her writing style better than the other author, but I just don't think I'm in the mood for that premise right now, so I think I'm gonna also skip this one. Okay, now we have Immaculate Conception by Ling Ling Huang. What is this about? This cover is wild. Hold on, this first line in the synopsis. What if you could enter the mind of the person you love the most? I'm already intrigued. So I recently read a book called My Lips, Her Voice by L.L. Madrid. This is a debut novel by a debut author, and she wrote about a girl being possessed by another girl, and so you kind of had like these two people inside one body, and that's kind of what I'm feeling from this too, like a merging into one body situation. And also I feel like another book that's been nominated in 2 other categories is called The Merge, and that's actually coming out this November as well, and I've been wanting to read that. So I feel like there's a lot of merging going on in a couple of these books, and it is a very intriguing premise. So this is a maybe for me. I don't know if I'm as intrigued to read this one as much as some of the other ones, but we'll see. Ooh, You Weren't Meant to Be Human by Andrew Joseph White. I think I really want to read this one. This book is written by a trans male author, and it says it's a book about identity, survival, and transformation amidst an alien invasion. I'm absolutely intrigued to read a book from this kind of lens and gain this new perspective, so I think I'm definitely going to pick this one. And then the last one here on the list is What Hunger by Catherine Dang, a coming-of-age tale following a daughter of Vietnamese immigrants, grappling with generational trauma while navigating the violent power of teenage girlhood. It says it's for fans of Jennifer's Body. Yes? Okay, which ones did I say I was interested in? Let's go back. When the Wolf Comes Home, Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, we're gonna have to narrow this down. The Haunting of Paynes Hollow, that one was a really good one. I think that one's still like towards the top of the list. That sounded so good. Did I even read it to you guys? I don't know. But, I'll tell you about it if I pick it. And most likely I'm gonna pick it. Let's be real. Okay, none of them on this row because I already read The Buffalo Hunter. Oh my god. Okay, The Possession of Alba Diaz, The Bewitching. That's already 5. Okay, none on this row, I don't think. And then on this row, oh my gosh. Literally like 3 on this row. Immaculate Conception, You Weren't Meant to Be Human, and What Hunger. Okay, so I'm literally up to 8. That is too many. I need to cut that at least in half to make this work. What am I gonna do? Okay, what if I choose like 1 or 2 that I absolutely want to read, like no questions, and the ones that I'm kind of more iffy about, I'll put in a spinner wheel, and then I'll just let the spinner wheel decide. So I feel like right off the bat, one that is absolutely calling to me that I feel like I want to read no matter what is The Haunting of Paynes Hollow by Kelley Armstrong. That synopsis just gripped me. I'm in and I want to know what's going on with this story. So that one is absolutely going to go in this vlog. I feel like the Nat Cassidy and Grady Hendrix book I can put in the spinner wheel and be okay with it, even though I feel like those are really high contenders to actually win. I feel like I'm also okay with putting The Possession of Alba Diaz and The Bewitching in the spinner wheel, even though I feel like I'm going to love those. I feel like the one I really, really want to read, like no questions asked, is You Weren't Meant to Be Human. So let's do that. The 2 that I'm absolutely going to read is You Weren't Meant to Be Human by Andrew Joseph White and The Haunting of Paynes Hollow by Kelley Armstrong. The ones that are going in the spinner wheel are going to be When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy, Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix, Possession of Alba Diaz by Isabel Canas, The Bewitching by Sylvia Moreno Garcia, Immaculate Conception by Ling Ling Huang. Wait, was this one of the ones that I was gonna pick? I kind of feel like I don't even want to read it anymore. at least in comparison to all the other ones, I'm going to take this one off. I'd rather add What Hunger by Catherine Dang and just go from there. So how many is that? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the spinner wheel, and then I'm gonna read 2. So in total, that's 6, 7. Okay, I'm really excited to have picked 7 possible books for this. I think I'm gonna have to start off with The Haunting of Paynes Hollow just because I'm so absolutely intrigued by this book. The trouble is gonna be hoping that my library has all these books and not everybody has already checked them out, because I need to read these books right now before it's too late to vote. So wish me luck in finding all of these and actually being able to read all of them and get this video out before the winner is actually announced on December 4th. I think I could do it. Okay, so I made it to the 50% point of The Haunting of Paynes Hollow by Kelley Armstrong. So now I can actually tell you a little bit what this is actually about. So I didn't realize that this was going to be a Sleepy Hollow inspired story. I guess it could have been obvious by the title, but I didn't put 2 and 2 together. I didn't realize until I started reading it, and there was mention of Sleepy Hollow almost on every single page of this book. So this, I guess, is a reimagining of that story, or inspired by, or, you know, the characters basically talk about the legend of Sleepy Hollow over and over. They refer to the legend of Sleepy Hollow as just this story, but there is actually a headless horseman, I guess, in this place of Paynes Hollow. And so that, I guess, is a big moment or point of this story. But basically the premise of the story is this woman who is our main character. She is inheriting from her late grandfather her family home, and I guess it's these cottages by the lake. It's like this 300-acre property that's worth about $10 million, and it's all going to her. There is, however, a stipulation. Her grandfather put it in his will that the only way that she gets this property is if she stays in the property and lives there for 1 month. So the reason why this is a big deal is because this is basically the childhood home where she grew up. And when she was a child, she witnessed her father unaliving a child on this property, and she told everybody about it. So this led to her father unaliving himself, and her grandfather never agreed with her. He always said that she did not know what she saw. She was falsely accusing him, and she's the one that caused her father to do what he ended up doing. So they had a basically estranged relationship after that incident, but she felt like she was not going to be gaslit into believing whatever he told her. She was not going to cover up this scandal. She knows what she saw. She saw what she saw. Her father did what he did, and she was vocal about it. And she has stood by that, you know, to this day, and she's a grown adult now. So her grandfather's essentially trying to prove a point, even after his death, that he believes if she stays there for a month, she will realize that what she saw was not exactly what she thinks she saw. So that's the story. And so when I read basically the synopsis, that included most, if not all of that. So don't worry, none of that was a spoiler, I promise you. That was literally all in the description, which had me so intrigued, because when I saw that, I literally thought of House on the Haunted Hill, and I love anything with like a challenge or a trial where they have to stay overnight in this home and survive in order to kind of get the money at daybreak, and whoever survives will get the money. And you realize, you know, it's not as easy as it sounds. So that's why I was super excited to pick this one up. However, after being 50% into this book, I'm realizing that I'm not really invested in the story. And I think it's the writing. I feel like the writing is not working for me. I'm not vibing with the characters. I'm kind of feeling like it's not all that interesting. I don't feel like there's a lot of depth there. I'm not really feeling like it's creepy. It just kind of feels not good. It's not working for me. I'm gonna finish it because it's pretty short, especially since I'm listening to it on audiobook at 2 times speed. I literally only have 2 hours and 15 left. I'm not even concerned about finding out the answer to this mystery. I kind of at this place where I just kind of don't care. And I don't think that's a good sign. Like currently I'm feeling like this book is sitting at a 3 because I don't think it's that bad. I think there's a little bit of interest in this, but it's also just kind of like fine, but there's nothing standing out or making it more special for me to be extra invested in this. You know, she's kind of just there and weird things are happening and she thinks she sees something and she doesn't really know what she's seeing, and there might be somebody over by the water, but you know, when she goes, she doesn't really see it clearly. So yeah, I don't know. It sounds like there's probably, I'm guessing a headless horseman since they've mentioned it 50 million times already. But thus far, I don't really know. But I'm not really liking any of the characters. They're just kind of like whatever to me. I don't even really care about the main character. I definitely will not be voting for this book. I already know 50% of the way in, like there's nothing that's going to change my mind. Let's not forget, I also read The Buffalo Hunter, not in this vlog, but I did read it, and that's also being nominated. So whatever book I read in this vlog will need to beat The Buffalo Hunter, and that was a really good book. That one I keep battling between if that's a 4 or 5 star review for me. I have it at 4 stars. The more I think of it, the more I feel like it's a 5-star book, and it probably is a 5-star book. But for me, I guess enjoyment wise, dropped it down a little bit because it was a little bit slower at points, so it wasn't like the most exciting thing I've ever read. But for the premise and the themes alone, 5 stars. So it's sitting at probably a 4.5 would describe it more accurately for me. So basically any book that I read here in this vlog will need to beat that 4.5. It basically needs to be an outstanding 5-star book, like no questions, no hesitation, for me to vote for it over The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. This book, I'm already telling you right off the bat, not gonna be it, but I'll check in when I'm finished to see if I eat my words. Man, that was such a letdown. There was no point in that book where I became interested in the story. I felt like the whole time I was just waiting for it to be over. Yeah, I don't know, the characters were just flat and uninteresting to me, and that never seemed to change. And even when the twists started getting revealed, I just never cared. There was like a hint of interest because there was an element of folklore, and I do find folklore in general interesting, but even that really didn't save it for me. I don't know what to say. I don't really want to say much. I think I'm just going to leave it there. This book was not for me. I didn't enjoy it. I'll probably give it like 2 stars. I'm actually surprised that it has so many high ratings, to be honest, but again, to each their own. I've never read a book by this author before, and I can't say I'll be clamoring to read another one by her. I don't know. Let's move on. Okay, the next book I'm going to read is You Weren't Meant to Be Human by Andrew Joseph White. Immediately, the synopsis in Goodreads says, Alien meets Midsummer. Alien and Midsummer are 2 buzzwords for me because those are 2 of my favorite horror movies of all time. I love the Alien franchise, even though Aliens is my favorite one of the franchise, but I digress. Xenomorphs are terrifying, and Midsummer, I love Midsummer. So anything that is Midsummer-esque, I'm definitely going to gravitate towards that. I'm probably going to love it. We'll see. But I already have a feeling that this is going to be right up my alley. I hope I'm not putting my foot in my mouth. So far, the book that I was really interested in did not go so well. So let's see if this one succumbs to the same fate, but I'm already liking that description. Let me see what this is actually about, because I actually don't know. I just kind of read that, and I know it's by a trans male author, and that was enough for me, but let me keep reading to see what I'm getting into. Okay, it's probably going to be really weird because it says festering masses of worms and flies have taken root in dark corners across Appalachia. In exchange for unwavering loyalty and fresh corpses, these hives offer a few struggling humans salvation, a fresh start. It's an offer that none refuse. Okay, wait. Is this going to be too weird for me? I don't know. Now I'm torn. What is this? What is this about? Let's just jump into it because who knows? Who knows where this is gonna go? I'm interested though. Oh man, this is gonna be weird, isn't it? Oh boy. Okay, I had no idea what this was going to be about. This is horrific. Okay, this is so far, I am partially completely confused, and then I'm also horrified. I didn't read enough of the synopsis to actually know what I was going to be getting into. So now that I've read it, this is not a spoiler. This is just if you actually would have read the full synopsis, unlike me, you would already know that this is about a trans male main character who ends up getting pregnant by their partner, and he is being forced by his hive. This is the part that's confusing. He's in some kind of weird alien cult. I don't know. That part is so weird and I don't understand what is actually happening with that. Strange. Okay, so that part I don't know. So there's part of it that's like, what is happening? What is happening? I'm not getting it. There's a lot of murder, there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of gore and creepy crawlers, and I don't know. I'm only listening to the audiobook and that's pretty wild. Like when the hive speaks, it sounds kind of crazy and I actually don't fully understand what it's saying. So I really wish I had a physical copy or at least an ebook to follow along and actually see what they're saying because I can't understand it. But but it's really good so far. I'm really loving this. I've never read a book about a trans male character or trans character in general. The closest I think I've gotten to a book like this is The Honeys, which was a gender fluid character, and there was also a weird hive-ish element to that book as well, and that's the part of the book that I didn't fully get or enjoy because it was just too much over my head. So that's what I was kind of worried about with this one, is when I read that there was going to be a hive, I was like, oh no, this is gonna be super weird. I feel like I'm not gonna get it again. And so far, that is true. I'm not really understanding what's happening. I can't really grasp that part. I'm such a visual person. I feel like I need to see like pictures, or I wish this was like a film so I could see what is actually happening, because I'm not able to picture absolutely everything that's going on. It's kind of going a little bit over my head. But I will say, even that being so, I'm really, really enjoying this book because of the themes of just having a character who, trans or not, just being pregnant and not wanting to be pregnant and then not being able to get out of that. Like just seeing this baby inside them as a parasite and being terrified and really just not wanting this to happen. This is such a huge commentary on what's going on in America about the anti-abortion laws and abortions being banned all over the United States and people being forced to have these babies. Terrifying, absolutely horrifying, not being able to be in control of your body. And so this is like real horror. I'm reading this and my skin is just crawling because I can't imagine just being forced into a situation that you just don't want to be in, like having no control over what is going on with your body. So this character is part of this hive, which I guess is like some kind of weird cult thing. I don't know. It's like this alien led cult, I guess. But the hive wants him to have the baby. So now he can't even get the abortion. That is where I'm at in the book, and I feel like that's not a spoiler because I read the full synopsis now, and it basically says all of that. So basically, I'm like 25% into the book. There is more that's been happening, but I mean, I have no idea what is actually going on, really. There's other characters, and it's all extremely interesting. I'm not deterred in any way. I think because this main theme has me gripped. The rest of it, I'm very confused. But this central theme, I'm in this. I'm fascinated with learning about, this main character dealing with their identity, and oh, and another big thing about this is our main character is also autistic and also mute. Now, they're not nonverbal, like they cannot speak. They actually can speak if they wanted to, but they choose not to. But this character does not speak. So anything we get from this character is all in their mind and their thoughts. And then they communicate with other people through, either text or writing or anything like that. So this is LGBTQ plus rep, and this is also disability rep. So if you're interested in books like that and expanding and diversifying your reading in that way, definitely pick this book up. This is definitely a different perspective that maybe you might be looking for or maybe would be interested in. I already feel like this is such a good book to recommend if you're looking for things like that, and I haven't even finished the book, but I'm loving this so far, even though I have no idea what is actually going on.
Why? That is what you can. Don't call it. Don't. Does it cause you pain? Does it feel like something's wrong? Your body knows so much about itself. Something's wrong with the little one. You can feel it in your womb and please. We wish to help.
So I hated that voice that was used for the hive the whole time I was reading it. I couldn't stand it. So I was playing it for you right now at 1x speed. So I was listening to the book the whole time at 2x speed. So it was so much more grating and abrasive when it would pop up. It would just be louder, and it's all a bunch of voices layered over each other at different pitches, so it just was like painful in my ears, especially when I had my earbuds in. I was listening to it that way. I felt like I was being attacked, but there's a part of me that also felt like maybe that's the point. So I don't know, it's interesting, but I just wanted to play it for you as an example so that if you are thinking of doing the audiobook, just know that when the hive speaks, that's what you're going to be hearing. So just a heads up. But yeah, so I just finished this book and I really enjoyed it, but I also struggled with understanding what the heck was going on the whole time, and I was confused to know, whether or not I was missing it or if I was not understanding it. And so I actually had to Google and see some other reviews and see some other just people talking about the book, because I was so confused, because it is very strange. There is a whole, alien cult aspect of this that doesn't ever get explained. So take that in mind as well. This is very much a character-driven story. You are getting the thoughts and feelings and experiences of one main character, that is Crane, and his experience of this unwanted pregnancy and being forced to have this baby. That is the entire story. There is more to it, and we get other characters, and we get this hive, which is like this big, how do you even describe it? Just a bunch of worms and flies, but there's no explanation of what the hive is, where the hive came from, why the hive is, what they want, what is the point, why do they want him to have this baby, what are they going to do with the baby. There's really no explanation for all of that. It's basically like you're getting dropped into a world and you're just living through one experience, and you're kind of just picking up the pieces of that. But that's the point, right? Like it's really not about the world or the hive. It's about Crane and Crane's relationship to himself and his identity and his experiences with being trans, and also like the loss of his, how do you say it, his bodily autonomy, and being forced to be pregnant, and also this abusive relationship he's engaging in, and just there's a lot going into this. There's so much, and I think this can be a very relatable book to a lot of people that have been through these similar experiences and feelings. And I think this is a really important book and a powerful book for a lot of people. It's one of those things where like if you get it, you get it. And I can't say that this is my experience, but like it was really interesting to see this perspective because I know that, I mean, the author himself, I'm sure put a lot of him into this book. Like this is clearly coming from a place that was inside of him. Like this was his story to tell. And so I appreciated that a lot. And I do think this is a really, really good book. It just had me very confused because the whole time I was like, but why? You know, but what's happening? But tell me more about these worms. And you have to just, like, I didn't realize until the end, till the very end, it's not about the worms. Forget about the worms. Forget about the why. It's not about that. This is literally about Crane and his experience with what he's going through. And if you can be okay with that, I think you will enjoy the book. Just be okay with the weird and let the weird pass over you and just focus on his internal feelings and thoughts and emotions and pain because it's so horrific. So horrific. Like I can't even imagine being forced to be put through something like that. That is terrifying, the things that he goes through. And this goes without saying that there's a lot of trigger warnings here, like a lot. So be mindful of those. Some of the most blatant and obvious trigger warnings here that I can give you is, you know, this is a lot about pregnancy, unwanted pregnancy, miscarriage, transphobia in some parts, and abuse and weird, just a lot of weirdness. But yeah, there's so much more as far as trigger warnings go, but I don't want to give away too much. I think sometimes if you don't want spoilers, be aware of looking at the trigger warnings because you will see what's to come. But yeah, I really liked it. I think for me, it was probably a 4-star read, which actually puts that book now head to head with the Buffalo Hunter because I also rated that book 4 stars. So I've yet to get a 5-star. I do think both of these books could potentially be 5 stars, but you know, reading is subjective. So for me, they didn't fully hit the 5-star for me. I do think these are amazing books. I would recommend both of them, but I have not hit that like, oh my gosh, new favorite book. I would reread this book. I haven't got that yet from this list. So what I'm going to do is spin the wheel to see which book is going to be my next read from the list of books that I wanted to read here. Okay, so as you can see, I put the other 5 books that were on my list of hopefuls on the wheel, and I'm going to go ahead and spin it now. Okay, When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy. I was going to be excited for any one of the books that got chosen, and I'm excited because, like I've said before, I've been really wanting to read a Nat Cassidy book, so let's do it. So right when the book starts off, it is blatantly obvious that this book does revolve around daddy issues. It says it in the story. I mean, our main character has daddy issues. This little boy is running away from his father, who's taking the shape of a wolf. That's already clear from the beginning of the story. So I'm thinking, okay, this is about an abusive father and he's being portrayed as a werewolf, and that's going to be the symbolism of abuse and child abuse, right? The child is 5 years old, so I'm thinking, okay, he sees his father as a monster and this is all symbolic, right? Okay, yeah, that's kind of what this story feels like for the first like one part of the book, because it is broken up into parts. I'm reading the audiobook, so I actually can't see how it's broken up, but I did get to the part where it said, okay, part 2. So I don't know how many parts there actually is. I guess I could look in the chapters. I didn't actually look at that. Whatever. Neither here nor there. But anyways, so the first part of the book is a complete chase story. And actually, I think the whole book might be a chase story because that hasn't stopped. They are running away from the boy's father. So this woman, you know, she is a struggling actress. She has her own daddy issues. She has her own problems. I'm not going to get into all that. I'll leave that to you to read this and be, you know, feel tense along the way of what's happening with her. And basically, she stumbles on this 5-year-old little boy who's cowering and afraid and trying to get away from his father. So that's what the story is about. She is running away. This whole story is a big long chase scene, is what it's looking like right now. So it's very tense. The whole way is just action, action, go, 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 go. And it's fun because it's interesting, and it's tense and it's scary because it's, they're trying to escape this monster. So like I said, that was the whole kind of first part, and I was thinking to myself, if this is the whole rest of the book, I think I'm going to get bored after a while. Like, how much running from this wolf can we get without this being kind of repetitive and boring? And boy, did it take a turn right when part 2 starts, because you get this whole other element to the book that I was just not expecting at all, and I was pleasantly surprised. This is so much fun. There's a whole other aspect that I'm not going to tell you about, but it definitely takes a turn. There's more to it than I initially thought, and I'm enjoying it. And I don't want to even talk about it because that would just be completely spoiling it for you if you don't know what's going to happen. But I'm just going to say there's more to it than just what you think this might be or what I thought this was going to be. So I'm very, very curious to see where this is going to go, how this is going to turn out. And yeah, I might not tell you too much about it because I think this book is best if you really don't know what to expect. That's how I feel, because I had no idea where this was going to go. I had all my preconceived notions, and then now there's something else happening, and I'm like, oh, tell me more. This is exciting. This is fun. So, yeah, let's see. Look at this little furry loaf. Look at how cute she is. She doesn't even look like a dog at this point. I'm like, where's her head and where's her butt? She's just like a floof on the couch. I did not expect to read that entire book in one day. The day's not even over, and I've already finished it. It was extremely well written. I definitely am a fan of Nat Cassidy now. I want to read every other book he's written. I loved his afterword. Now, I've been told many times you have to read the afterword or author's note by Nat Cassidy because he has the best ones, and I can attest this is true. Do not skip his afterwords or author's notes. It gave so much more depth and insight into what this book is about and where it came from, and I really appreciated it. The ending of this book just resonated and tied everything together, and I loved it. I really, really loved it. I felt like as I was reading the entire book, I wasn't like overwhelmed with like any kind of emotions one way or the other. I was just enjoying it. It almost felt like I was watching a movie and I was just having a good time and wanting to see where this was going to go. But when it came to the ending, that's kind of where it all, came together, and I was like, oh, okay, this is what this is really about. And just getting those extra layers really added to it at the end, and including the afterword. I feel like all of those extra layers to this really tied it all up and made me love it even more than I did when I was actually reading it. I feel like while I was actually reading it, I wasn't caring too much about the characters individually. I felt like the main character was kind of annoying. The child main character was also kind of annoying. I really just didn't really care about these people. I was just kind of like, okay, yes, let's just see what's gonna happen. But they did kind of bother me. I'm not like a big fan of annoying little kids, or I know he wasn't like meant to be annoying, but kids in general, I don't like to read a lot of stories with children, especially if they're like throwing tantrums or something. I'm like, oh no, we're not doing that. No, thank you. And then there's like that fine line between reading about actors where it's interesting because I'm a theater kid and I was into acting for a while, and I'm like, oh, actors, I can see myself. But then there's like that type of actor where it gets cringe, and I'm like, oh no. I don't want to read about that. Those actors are kind of annoying. Like, this main character is like part of an improv group, and I'm like, oh no. Something the author said in the beginning when he was kind of giving the content warnings, I believe, was that this was heavily based on like fairy tales or children's stories. You know, you kind of have like the big bad wolf and things like that. And he took a lot like from those as inspiration, except for the happily ever after. And he tells you that right from the beginning. And I think that absolutely tracks because the whole time reading this, I was like, how is this going to end? This doesn't feel like it's going to go well. I feel like there's no way that this story could have a good ending. And I'm actually really happy with the way it ended. It just worked for me. And I feel like it's too soon to settle in. I feel like I need to think about it because I was pretty convinced that I was going to give this like a really good like 4-star review. I'm like debating if it's a 5, but I think I might stick with 4, at least for now. I definitely feel like it's a strong contender with Buffalo Hunter x Hunter and also You Weren't Meant to Be Human. I feel like those right now are like absolutely on the same level of like really well written, absolutely could win this, could get my vote for this because those 3 books so far have been amazing. I don't know that I would say that any one of those are a for sure new favorite that I would like want to reread or that I'm just like never gonna stop thinking about or, you know, would go on like my favorite of all time or anything like that. I think they're really, really good books that I would really recommend to everybody. And I feel like a lot of people would enjoy these books, but I don't think I've found a 5-star in this list just yet. And I think it's because I'm trying to be a little bit more picky with my 5 stars and what those mean to me. I feel like if I was giving this a rating, you know, in general, these are probably 5-star books because they're so well written and the subject matter is amazing. But yeah, if I can sum up this book a little bit to give you a little bit more insight into it, I would say this book is about fear and how we deal with fear. And I'll just leave it at that because I absolutely think you should just go into it and figure it out along the way. I feel like that's part of the fun of this one is a little bit of the discovery. You know, I don't want to spoil the whole thing. And yes, there's a shifter in this book, and I feel like we already know that. So, yeah. Okay, I started this vlog on the 11th, the day the Goodreads Choice nominees dropped, and it is the 15th. So I've been flying through these books. I can definitely squeeze in one more and still maintain my sanity. But before I do that, I would like to talk a little bit about the 2 books that I read outside of this blog, just in case you haven't watched my other videos and you are curious about some of the other books on the list. So I did read Buffalo Hunter x Hunter, which I have been ranting and raving about, and it is in my top choices for my vote. So I figured I should at least give you a little bit about it, and you could probably see it in the background here. I have it on my shelf. So this book is a type of vampire book, which I know I said I wasn't really in the mood for vampires lately, but this one was really interesting. To me, it was like a Native American version of Interview with the Vampire. So this was written by Stephen Graham Jones, and it was the first book I ever read by him, and I actually really loved it. It was a little bit boring at times, and I do like historical fiction, but just take that in for yourself. It is a slower paced read at times, and it's also a little bit difficult to follow just because of his writing style, and also the language is different. So a lot of the times the language that he uses, the Native American in the book, it's not familiar to me, so it is harder to follow along, which makes it a little bit more of a difficult read, at least for me. So that was a little bit of a barrier, but I had the audiobook, so it made it easier to just keep moving along. I can admit that there was times where I kind of felt like I don't know what's going on, but I'm just going to keep reading because I know this is really good and I feel like I'll just get it as it continues, which is what happened essentially. I kind of just continued to pick up the story as we went. So instead of kind of going back and rereading a chapter over and over like 5 different times, I just pushed through because I was like, I don't want to be stuck on this for too long. I'm just going to it'll click for me. So that's what happened. But it is such a good story. It's not your typical vampire story. It is very different, the vampires in that book, and I appreciated that. I appreciated that it was like a different take and it wasn't just the same old thing. And I didn't see that twist coming, and I don't know if other people did or didn't, but when it came to, so what it is like this vampire comes into this church and he starts telling his story to this priest, and he comes by, every day or so, and then he starts giving more of his story of who he was before he was turned, and then who he became as he was as now living as this vampire, and what he's been through over the years. And he starts talking about what happened to his people, and the massacre that happened with that, and then just like all his kills along his life and just everything. And he just starts telling his story. And I was also curious with that book, what's this all coming to? And by the end of it, it is just wild, and it's definitely weird. It's definitely a horror, and I just thought it was a great perspective that I have never seen, and I love that we got that, and I thought it was really, really powerful, especially to read it in November for Native American Heritage Month. I definitely highly recommend this, and I love that it is nominated in this category because I do think it's a really high contender. He's another author that I really want to check out more of his books, and I know he is either loved or hated as far as his writing goes, because a lot of people, they either like it or they don't. I mean, I feel like you can say that about anybody, but I feel like he's one of the writers that I hear the most that people either absolutely love everything he writes, or it doesn't work for them, and they always say it's the writing just didn't work for me. I'm happy to say that I did like his writing, but I can understand the struggle with it. It's not easy to read or to follow along, and I've only read one of his books, so I mean, I don't know, we'll see if I read another one and then change my mind or what. But I have heard that this was maybe the easiest one to follow along as far as his writing goes, so I mean, we'll see. I just loved reading a horror story from a Native American perspective, and I absolutely want to read more from different people's perspectives moving forward. And then the other book that I read from this nomination list is Breathe In, Bleed Out by Brian McAuley. And like I mentioned earlier, I wasn't a big fan of this one. This is a slasher book. There's a group of people that go to this like wellness retreat out in Joshua Tree. For me, that book just didn't have enough depth to be a contender in this category, or for me to even enjoy it personally. So if you are just in it for just a fun slasher read, go for it. I actually didn't find it all that exciting. The kills didn't really work for me. The story itself didn't really work for me. I know there's a lot of humor in it that maybe I just didn't enjoy personally, but that is just more a straightforward slasher book. I didn't really feel like the ending made a whole lot of sense. I didn't like it or enjoy it. These other books are on like a whole other playing field, and I feel like Breathe In, Bleed Out just doesn't belong in the same category. It just doesn't hit the mark of how deep some of these other books are, and I feel like that's important for me. If I'm gonna be picking like, the best horror of the year, it has to really like feel impactful for me personally. So with that being said, I'm going to spin again for my last book and see what we get. Ooh, okay. The Possession of Alba Diaz by Isabel Canas. Okay, I'm actually really excited because this is another author that I have not read anything from. I mean, there was a 3 out of 4 chance that I was gonna get an author that I haven't read before, so that's like not saying a lot. I've heard that this book has a very romantic element to it, so I'm okay with that, I think. Especially because I know that that's a thing going into it, so I will be expecting it, and hopefully it won't bother me too much that it's there. I think I'm kind of in the mood for something a little romantic. Maybe. We'll see. I'm not the biggest romance fan, but I feel like if it's wrapped up in a horror book, I'll be okay with it. Kind of like how in Mexican Gothic, we got a little bit of a romance element in it. It wasn't overwhelming. I'm hoping that The Possession of Alba Diaz is kind of in the same vein. I have heard that this one is a little bit more romantic. So I feel like as long as I know that going into it, I won't be disappointed or caught off guard with that. So I'm excited about it. I love the cover of this book. I think it's beautiful. So let's get into it. Just kidding. I am not gonna read The Possession of Alba Diaz. I tried, but I'm gonna have to soft DNF it. And you know what? Sometimes it just happens. I think I got a little bit burned out. I've been reading nonstop for maybe about 17 days in a row. And I've been go with book after book after book because I'm currently doing a readathon and I've been full throttle with reading. And I think this is just going to be a book that I'm going to need to read at another time. So it's not because I don't like the book at all. I just can't get my brain to focus on it and give it the attention that it deserves. And if you've watched any of my past videos, you will know that I have learned that forcing myself to read a book that I thought I was going to like at the wrong time leads to very bad outcomes for me and for my enjoyment of the book, and so therefore for the author. And I don't want to be leaving this a negative review because I was just not in the right place to be reading this book. So I think that I could possibly really like this book at a later time. So with that whole explanation being said, I'm just going to leave it as a soft DNF for this one and just stick with the books that I've already read from the nomination list and choose from there. It is already the 19th, so I am running out of time to get my vote in. The ones that I've decided will potentially get my vote are going to be You Weren't Meant to Be Human by Andrew Joseph White, The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones, and When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy. Those are my top 3 choices of the ones that I've read. I'm sure there are other really great books on this list that I just didn't get around to. So sure, maybe it's not the real vote because I feel like to really vote, you'd probably need to read all of them to make the best decision. But of the ones that I read, I think I'm going to have to go with the one that I didn't even read in this vlog. Honestly, The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones really blew me away as far as something totally different that I had never read before. It was a completely different perspective on the vampire, and like I said before, I haven't been in the biggest mood to be reading vampire books recently, but that book kind of has me itching to give vampires another shot. It's not that I don't like vampires, again, it's just that I feel like vampires have just been done and overdone so many times. Amazing read and a very profound message within the text as well. Let me know in the comments who you're voting for Goodreads Choice Awards favorite books of 2025. Especially the horror section, because that's probably the one I'm most interested in. And with that conclusion, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. Hope to see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.